Okay? So, what I want you to notice from yesterday, okay, we saw that it was 4, the outer and inner cancel, and I got minus 9i squared, so it was 4 plus 9 is 13. And over here, the outer and the inner cancel, and I got 1 plus 49, which is 50. So that was from yesterday. So I need you to look, though, at the bottom of this side of the notes, because there's something really important here. Because I'm going to use some vocabulary, and it's called the complex conjugate. A plus BI has a conjugate that's A minus BI, and A minus BI has a conjugate that's A plus BI. And what I want you to remember, and if you'll write this down, if you had a problem like this, 2 over, let's say, 3 minus square root 5. This is back from Algebra 1. We multiplied by the conjugate, and the conjugate was just the opposite sign. So if it's a plus, it became a minus for the conjugate, and if it was a minus, it became a plus. And do you remember back from Algebra 1, when you FOILed the denominator, the outer and the inner canceled, and radical 5 times radical 5 was just 5. So guess what? I is a radical. Okay, I is the square root of negative 1. So you're not allowed to leave an I in a denominator. So let's go ahead and flip the page then when you're ready. And let me show you something in this next example. It says if I have 4 minus 5i over 2 plus 3i, I want you to write yourself a note. When you have, so this will help you when you see homework problems. When you have a plus bi in the denominator, you multiply by the conjugate, which is a minus bi. So again, please write this down in your notes. So then when you see this kind of problem in the homework, when you see it in tomorrow we're not going to do anything new. I'm going to give you a worksheet on every part of just 4.8 and let it all gel, where we add, subtract, multiply, and divide. We're going to take an extra day and let it gel. So when you're doing today and tomorrow's homework, I want you guys, and you're getting better at it, so I'm very, very pleased. I need you, before you ask me to help, or before you say, I don't remember this, you want to say, I don't remember it yet, and you pull out your notes, and we're writing helpful stuff here. So, if I have 4 minus 5i over 2 plus 3i, I can't leave the I in the denominator because it's a square root. So I'm going to multiply by the conjugate. And so what that is you just change the sign down in the bottom. And if you're a little foggy, that's okay. That means you're learning something new. And what we're going to do, though, is when we're done with the FOIL, it should make a little bit more sense, okay? So I'm going to pause, and I want you to FOIL up in the top. When you are done foiling, make sure you simplify it. I squared is negative 1, and combine like terms. FOIL in the denominator, combine like terms. And then I'll work it out in just a quick moment. 4 times 2 is 8. The outer is minus 12i. The inner is minus 10i. And that's a plus 15i squared. Okay, I just did FOIL. First, outer, inner, last. Be careful right here. Negative 5i times negative 3i is a plus 15i squared. Down in the bottom, in the denominator, I get 4 minus 6i plus 6i minus 9i squared. Now, I'm going to maybe try something here. If we know I squared is negative 1, okay, if I squared is negative 1, can you handle if I skip a step? That's 8 minus 15. Okay, so that's negative 7 minus 22i over, and let's see if we can skip one down here too. The i's cancel, and minus 9i squared becomes a plus 9, so that's over 13.
Let's go.
So you can either leave it like this, or you can split. Because if I split it, do you see that is a plus bi form? But I'll take it either way, okay? I will take it either way. All right, so what I want you to do is there are 3 problems here, A, B, and C. If you're asked to divide, that means you can't leave an I in the denominator. So look at what I have in red up here. When you have A plus BI in the denominator, you multiply by the conjugate. Now, if it's A plus BI, it becomes A minus BI. But when you get to B and C, I'm not going to multiply by 3 minus 4i. What's the conjugate on this one? If it's A minus BI, what's the conjugate? A plus BI, or 3 plus 4i, okay? All right, so try A, B, and C. Just to make sure you're off on the right track, letter A, you're going to multiply by 2 minus 3i up in the top and the bottom. In the top, you're not going to FOIL because 5i isn't a plus or minus. So I'm going to distribute and get 10i minus 15i squared. Do you see up in the top, in the numerator? It's just the distributive property. Then I get 4 minus 6i plus 6i minus 9i squared. Up in the top, negative 15i squared becomes 15, and we always put the real part first, and then it's 4 plus 9, which is 13. So you either leave it like this or split it. All right, so go ahead and do the next 2 if you haven't already. And just to make sure you do it correctly, you multiply by the conjugate. So A minus BI has a conjugate of A plus BI. A plus BI has a conjugate of A minus BI. All right, so here I'm getting 15 plus 20i plus 6i plus 8i squared. Down in the bottom, I get 9 plus 12i minus 12i minus 16i squared. So this is 15 minus 8, which is 7, plus 26i. 9, this becomes plus 16 is 25. I recommend splitting just because if they reduce, you can catch it easier. Okay, I just find that's a little bit easier. All right, the last one you're going to multiply by 1 plus 2i. So I'm foiling. If you need the parentheses, put them in. So that's 3 plus 6i minus 5i minus 10i squared. 1 plus 2i minus 2i minus 4i squared. If me skipping steps is confusing you, don't skip the steps. Put in I squared is -1 and you'll just have 1 or 2 extra steps than I do. And that's absolutely fine. This becomes 3 plus 10, so that's 13. This is plus I. Those cancel, and I get 1 plus 4 is 5. So I would say 13 over 5 plus, now you could write it as I over 5 or 1 over 5i. Okay, either way is fine. All right, any questions on the division?
Wait, so 13 plus I over 5, is that not a final answer?
That's a correct answer,
Oh.
yes, it is. I'm just saying you can always split it into the real part plus the imaginary part. All right, so the next topic is you can actually graph complex numbers. And it's going to look like we did our coordinate grid, but what we're going to do, I want you to write beside the x-axis. It's not going to be the x-axis. This is going to be the real part, or the A. The vertical is the imaginary part, or the B. So when I say I have A plus BI, you're actually going to plot like we did, so it looks like the x and y axis, but we're going to call it the real and the imaginary axis. Did you guys notice my t-shirt? So pi says to I, get real, because he's imaginary, and I tells pi, be rational, because pi is an irrational number. So this is a funny t-shirt. So, I'm cool. I'm cool today. All right, so here we go. If I want to plot 0 plus 4i, what you're going to do, in your ordered pair, there's no I. Okay, I don't want any misconceptions here. So how do I plot 0, 4? That's 0, and it's up 4. That is the point at my letter A. To do letter B, I'm going to write it as -3, 2. So you go left 3 and up 2. We'll label it B. All right, letter C. 1 minus 4i, you plot 1, -4. So I go right 1 and down 4. We'll call that C.
Is this going to make something cool?
No.
Dang it.
So this is 3, 0. So I'll go to the right 3, and I'll call that D. Orange. And then E is -3, -4. So I go left 3 and down 4. We'll call that E. So plotting is very simple. So I think yesterday you realized adding, subtracting, multiplying was very simple. Plotting is very simple. All right, when you're ready, flip the page, and we're going to do the last topic. And that is the absolute value. And what I want you to recall, okay? Recall. If I have the absolute value of -3, it's 3. The question is, how far is -3 from 0? So the thing is, what you want to ask yourself, okay, so write this down so that when you're looking at it and go, now what did we do? Why did we do it? And I really recommend that you read through your notes at least 2 or 3 times. I do it once before you start the homework. I'd read your notes again after you do the homework, and then read it again before the quiz. Like, if you will do that, you will find your comprehension of what we're doing to increase greatly. It will really help. So here's the deal. If I want to find the absolute value of A plus BI, now the question is, how far is it from the origin, from 0, 0? Okay? It's how far is it from the origin, because now I'm in 2 dimensions. Okay? I'm in 2 dimensions. So I want us to look at the graph that we just did, because all 5 of these are what we just did, okay? So I want us to first go back, and you can just watch mine. Look at letter A. Do you see 0, 4? How many units is that away from the origin?
4.
It's 4, okay? So that one's 4. That's no big deal, okay? You can just tell. The problem is in letter B. That's not 5, that's not 3, that's not 2. Let me go back here a moment. Do you happen to remember from geometry this distance? Okay, if this was left 3 and up 2, do you remember in geometry, and you probably did it in Algebra 1 as well, how do you find the hypotenuse in a right triangle?
6.
Pythagorean theorem. Oh, you guys are impressive. So look, if you do A squared,
A squared plus B squared.
A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So this is 3 squared plus 2 squared equals C squared. So 9 plus 4 is C squared. So C is the square root of 13. So guess what? I wanted to show you that so that you understood you don't ever need to memorize anything, but if you can figure it out from what you know, but here is the formula, okay? It says, if you want an absolute value of A plus BI, you just do the square root of A squared plus B squared, because it's always going to be the distance from the point to the origin, so it's a Pythagorean theorem problem. So look, in letter C, if I want the absolute value, it's the square root of 1 squared plus -4 squared. Well, 1 squared is 1, -4 squared is positive 16, so it's the square root of 17. All right, absolute value of 3 plus 0i is the square root of 3 squared. Now, when I say b squared, it's not bi squared, it's just the b, what's in front of the I. So this is the square root of 9, which is 3. Now, this is not an equation. Sometimes I see people put plus or minus because they're remembering the square root property and the square root method for solving quadratics, but this is not a quadratic equation, okay? All right, last one. This would be the square root, if I want the absolute value, is -3 squared plus -4 squared. So this is 9 plus 16, square root of 25, which is 5. Now, do not put your notes away, okay? Okay, do not.